My name is Snow White, and I want to tell the story of how I lost my home and found hope again. I grew up in a castle surrounded by mountains and forests. When I was younger, my life was peaceful, and my father, the king, loved me dearly, and the castle was always full of warmth and laughter. But everything changed after my father died. The new queen became colder and crueler every single day, and she was so obsessed with her beauty and cared about nothing except being the fairest woman in the world. Every morning, she stood in front of a mirror and asked the same question: Mirror, mirror on the wall, who is the fairest of them all? And usually, Mirror replied, You are the fairest of them all, my queen. But one morning, everything changed. I was walking through a castle hallway when I heard Queen's voice echoing from her chamber. And I stopped near the door because something sounded wrong. And I heard that Mirror replied, You are beautiful, my queen, but Snow White is the fairest of them all. And at that moment, my heart froze. The room became silent. And I heard that Queen screams angrily, Impossible! And I felt that fear growing inside me because I knew that Queen hated me, but now her jealousy became more dangerous. Later that day, the queen sent a royal huntsman to take me into the forest. I still remember the cold winter touching my face as we walked deeper and deeper into the forest. The forest felt cold and endless. I could hear birds above me and leaves crunching beneath our feet. But something was terribly wrong. But suddenly, the huntsman stopped and his hands were shaking. He looked at me with sadness in his eyes and said softly, Run away, Snow White. I stared at him in confusion. The queen ordered me to kill you, but I cannot, because you are innocent, he admitted. For a moment, I couldn't even breathe. I was so terrified. Please, he whispered, go away before it's too late. And without thinking, I turned and ran as fast as I could into the forest. The branches scratched my face and tears rolled down my face. And I thought to myself, why does she hate me so much? I never wanted to hurt anyone. And I ran until the sky became dark. And finally, I found a tiny cottage hidden between the trees. There was a little light through the window, and for the first time at that day, I felt a little hope. I slowly opened the door and stepped inside. The house was strange but cozy, and everything was so small: the chairs, the table, the beds. But I was so exhausted and starving. I'll just rest for a moment, I whispered to myself. And I lay down across the little beds and quickly fell asleep. And I woke up to loud voices. Who is she? Why is someone sleeping around in our house? When I opened my eyes, I saw 7 dwarfs standing around me. I jumped up immediately. I'm so sorry, I said nervously. I didn't mean to enter your house, but I had nowhere else to go. The dwarfs listened carefully as I told them my story. Their expressions softened with pity, and one of them smiled kindly and said, You can stay here with us, but you must be careful, because Queen is dangerous. And after that time, the life in the cottage became peaceful. Every morning, the dwarves went to their work in their mines, and I cleaned the cottage, cooked meal, and sang happily around the house. And for the first time in many months, I felt safe. And sometimes I stood outside watching sunlight shine through the trees, and I thought, maybe my life can finally be happy again. But far away in the castle, the queen discovered that I was still alive. When her mirror told her the truth, she was very furious. Snow White still lives? She shouted. Yes, and he created a poisoned apple and disguised herself as an old woman. And one afternoon, when the dwarfs were away, I heard knocking at the door. When I opened the door, there was an old woman holding a basket full of bright red apples. Would you like one, dear? she asked me very sweetly. At first, I hesitated because the dwarves had warned me never to trust strangers. But the old woman smiled so kindly that I began to feel embarrassed for doubting her. And I thought, maybe she is harmless, and I accepted the apple. At the moment when I took the bite, the sharp pain runs through my body, and I dropped the apple onto the floor. The room started spinning around me, and I couldn't even breathe because darkness slowly covered my vision. Then everything disappeared. The last thing that I remember is voices crying around me and dwarves standing beside me, heartbroken. Days later, the prince arrived at the cottage. When he saw me, he gently held my hand and spoke softly. Then suddenly, as if by magic, I opened my eyes. The poison was gone, and dwarves cheered with happiness, and tears filled my eyes because after everything I have suffered, the fear, the loneliness, the betrayal, and fear, I was finally alive and free again. And that is the story of how I survived the queen's jealousy and found hope in the darkest moment of my life.